Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And Soul Survivor jumps from plane and is the only survivor to survive the Boeing crash. I said survivor there a lot.
The Air India, unfortunate plane crash.
As well as updates from the protests going on across the nation in the United States. Oh, something went wrong.
What went wrong?
Oh, we're back. Okay. I kind of monitor the stream here once in a while. I have a new microphone as well. So if there's any audio issues, please, if there's anybody who's watching, let us know.
Yes. And also, we're having massive thunderstorms here in Mexico City. So if the power goes out or our internet stops working and we disappear, it's not because we're rude. It's because the god of rain, Tlaloc, wanted to meddle with us.
Well, before we get into it, let's talk about I'm building a little new set in the back room there. So you should see it pretty soon, maybe on my afternoon show. I have an older computer that's a Windows computer, so I'm going to try to set that thing up. Okay, let's get right into actually Ron DeSantis. Is that how I say it? Because you're always angry at me.
He always says Ron DeSantos, and it's Ron DeSantis.
Okay, well, he's not.
Not that I'm trying to protect his feelings or anything, but just annoys me when people pronounce things wrong.
Okay, and if you don't know who Ron DeSantos is, he is
DeSantis.
He's the governor of Florida. He had a presidential run against Trump. He didn't win, but he is a really good governor. Let's go into what he's saying about these protests.
Yes, it's coming from Langman Vince, saying he has to move to Florida.
And we also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself in Florida. And we also have a...
Well, and that's good to hear because in some of these protests, we're seeing the protesters really surrounding cars, brick out the window. Even on police vehicles, they're doing this. So if you do feel in danger, you are allowed to drive through the crowd. I just hope this doesn't go wrong because somebody might take this as, what happens if I just drive through the crowd?
Mm-hmm. So. And also, did we see it yesterday? There's a clip going around of Savannah Hernandez, an independent reporter, who was in New York, I believe, and she was trying to help. There were a lot of protesters blocking the road, and there were two white, super liberal, woke, progressive idiots that were there protesting, and there was a mother of color trying to get to work. And
that was in the Savannah Hernandez video. That was a different one.
That was the Savannah Hernandez video?
No.
Yeah.
Continue to go, though.
It is a Savannah Hernandez video.
Okay.
It was her.
It's not the one I showed yesterday.
Oh, no. But
yeah.
I'll look for it and maybe we'll show it in a minute. But the protesters are going, oh, you don't need to go to work. Why would you need to go to work? And there's a pileup of cars of people who are trying to just go do their jobs, do their citizenly duty, and also feed their families. And these people are telling two women of color that they're not going to move because work isn't important.
Yeah, basically the protesters were just telling people that wanted to get through that their work isn't important and their protest is more important. If you're stopping somebody from feeding their family by going to work, I think you should be arrested, period, point blank.
Yes, also emergency vehicles, etc. are also important to keep in mind.
Okay, and we do have another clip later from actually was it the sheriff of Florida? One of the sheriffs in Florida that... he has some pretty radical things to say. So we do have to save that for RUMBLE. We will be going over there at the end of the show. That is the Green Monster. Yes. Okay, let's go to the next article. And this just came up while you were live on your Spanish show. Yes. That's Nat and the Guy in Espanol. So if you are a Spanish speaker, feel free to check it out.
Yes, so this is from MJ Truth Ultra. Breaking, President Trump says an executive order is coming, potentially allowing for some long-time illegal aliens to stay in the country for farms and hotels. Does it make sense? Should we watch it?
Can you just read the whole thing?
Okay. So he said they've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be great. We're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have. We're going to have an order on that pretty soon. We can't We can't do that to our farmers.
Yeah, and this is a good policy, and I talked about this yesterday, and I kept bringing it up to you because you have a much more hardline stance on this immigration issue. I was saying that Donald Trump is a former Democrat. He's very moderate. People don't realize that most of his policies are former liberal policies. And I said he would probably give exemptions for people that have been there either 10 or 20 years. It looks like he's right now going for exemptions for people that probably have 20 years. I'm very, very interested to see this executive order when it comes through. I think people that have been there 20 years and don't have a criminal record and have had stable employment, at this point, they're only going to help the economy. So maybe let them stay and give them exemption, even if they have broken the law at some point. I know you have a different opinion, but...
Well, because entering a country without the proper steps or the appropriate paperwork is a crime in itself. It's illegal in itself, but...
Yeah, but this is also a compromised position. This puts the Democrats in a very hard position if he's willing to give exemptions for people that have been there for an extreme long period of time and have not been criminals. This also shows that he's not trying to deport people that have been there and not committed crimes. This is kind of what we were saying, that he's really going after the criminal element because he's trying to shape the narrative here. And if you add this on to that he's going to give exemptions for long-term, even if they are illegal residents, gateway to permanent status.
But I do hate the talking point, usually from the left or the like very woke people or the Democrats saying, oh, but they're our mates and they work in our farms and our economy would suffer without them. And it's, yes, because you've allowed the system to become so broken that now wages are down by the floor and you're also using people for their cheap labor, which is not a positive thing you should be bragging about.
Well, I watch a lot of debates and things, and the progressive liberals are refusing to debate this issue because they're just getting torn apart. They have to appeal to emotion. That's why you're seeing a big surge on TikTok for liberal videos. TikTok is primarily a female platform. Females make decisions primarily upon emotion, while males make decisions upon logic. That's why you're not seeing the same campaign on YouTube. This is really a logical issue, and if you break it down fact for fact, Trump does have the majority of the good points, the good talking points. It's hard for the liberals to kind of justify this. That being said, their best talking point would be for long-term residents that have been there 20 years or more. And if he takes that card away from them, they really don't have anything left. Okay, let's go into actually watching the video now.
Rafa quickly asks, they're still protesters? I thought they were RIOTERS. We can't really say I think you already said it anyways, but I think we're not supposed to say it like between
we're just
first 5 minutes.
Just trying to keep it PG for YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
But it is chaos causing protests. Let's just put it that way. And Rafa says, remember what Fox said about migrants when he was president, Nat? I remember he said he wanted the U.S. to build the wall, but... no, I don't remember. Remind me, enlighten me, please.
What was the question?
If I remember what President Fox, so an ex-president from Mexico, said about migrants when he was president. I do not. So please enlighten me if you can. Yes.
Okay, let's go into the video here. And I haven't actually seen this video. I clipped this article or this X as soon as I seen it.
Yeah, I'd seen it earlier today. It's not that recent, but it's from today.
It's recent for me.
It's from today.
It's recent for me.
Okay. If it lets.
I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotel.
Okay, that was good. This is a good policy, I think, and I think it works on multiple fronts here. Also, with the South African farmers that came in, it shows that Trump really has a love for farmers, and he's willing to give exemptions and refugee status for farmers, not just in Mexico, but of South Africa as well. So if people have been there 20 years and they're hardworking citizens and they have no criminal record, I have no problem with them staying. I do understand they have broken the law at some point, but I'm not going to say for 5 or maybe even 10 years, but 20 years is a long time. I think there is room for negotiation here, and I think if the liberals would go to Trump and say, well, can we do a 10-year exemption? But they won't back down. They're saying everybody should stay, all the criminals should stay, everybody. And they're really meddling with the Electoral College and the electoral seats. They flooded the nation with over 11 million immigrants so they can get more electoral seats for the 2030 census. And if all the illegal migrants were exited today, the Democrats would lose 27 electoral seats and never win another election. So I'm not saying they should exit every single illegal migrant. Obviously, Trump as well is fairly moderate on this issue, and he's willing to allow people that have been there for 20 years with no criminal record stay.
And Rafa reminded me of what our ex-president, Vicente Fox, said at one point. I'm not going to read it out loud as he said it because I would get dinged by YouTube probably. But at one point, and I do remember him saying it, he said, Mexican migrants that are over there accept jobs that not even people of color would do. He said that when he was president.
Okay.
Which is, shows how the rhetoric of immigration. Trump vows changes to immigration crackdown to protect migrant farmers, hotel workers. So the priorities of the left, essentially.
Yeah, so I think this has room to expand. This just shows that he is willing to negotiate and things like this. But they're going to have to come to the table and negotiate. Right now, they're saying violence, and if they can continue with this violent rhetoric and bringing violence to the street, especially on Saturday, they're not going to have any negotiating leverage left.
And it's not going to be good for both legal and illegal, all migrants. It's not going to be good for.
I said it before, in the 80s, Ronald Reagan gave mass exemption to all the immigrants that were in the country. This was millions of immigrants. Donald Trump is very much in the vein of Ronald Reagan. He even used Ronald Reagan's slogan, "Make America Great Again." He's showing here he is willing to give exemptions for people that even came into the country illegally. The Democrats have to come to the table. Instead of coming to the table, they're using these migrants in these violent protests, and it's really hurting their chances at lowering the amount of time you had to be in the U.S. in order to get an exemption. Okay, let's continue on with the next story here.
So, Seattle says, alert civil war. Seattle Police Department sides with insurrection against the federal government and declares war on ICE. They will not cooperate with ICE amid the nationwide riots.
Yeah, and we just seen Ron DeSantis give a statement. We're also going to have a statement from a Florida sheriff, and it is dramatically different from these sanctuary states. Seattle is a sanctuary state, so is Los Angeles, I believe Chicago, and a few others. But all the mayors and police chiefs, this isn't the sentiment of the police force. The police chief is usually a political appointee and has political incentives to make the statements he does. But all the police chiefs from these sanctuary cities are coming out with these disgusting statements. Let's just hear it.
Okay, we'll hear it and then I'll say something.
As I watch the actions taken by federal law enforcement in California and along the West Coast, I am reminded of why I became a police officer. It is my job to support the rights of our community. Let me be clear. The Seattle Police Department does not engage in immigration enforcement activities. We do not inquire into or collect information about an individual's immigration or citizenship status unless it is directly connected to a state or local criminal investigation.
They said they're not going to help ICE, and I think Seattle may go a step further by not even enforcing protesters that are getting violent against other citizens. So it's going to be interesting if the Seattle police even step in to make arrests to protect the citizens of the city when these protests get out of hand.
Well, during the Summer of Love, they didn't do much.
No, and that's kind of what I'm basing my theory on.
This is, of course, the sole responsibility of the federal government. My responsibility is the safety and security of the people of Seattle. We adhere to Washington state law, which limits our involvement with federal immigration authorities for enforcement purposes. Here in Seattle, no one should be afraid of contacting local law enforcement to report a crime, ask for help, or cooperate with an investigation. Our officers are here to serve everyone regardless of their immigration status.
Okay, and that's very interesting because, as he pointed out, that is ICE's responsibility to kind of go find out who is not a citizen within the state and exit him from that state. So it was a very political and written statement. It was very intentionally written. He was very careful in what he was saying.
He was very clearly reading. So again, who knows where these directives are coming from? I mean, we do. And also, I mean, we lived in Vancouver for 13 years, and Seattle is essentially an extension of Vancouver, just in the U.S. They're basically the same city if you go to them. So we saw what happened during the Summer of Love. They're also probably very terrified of their own protesters and their own citizens because they haven't been able to manage them since the Summer of Love protests.
Well, it's very interesting you bring up the Summer of Love. These were the BLM protests in Seattle. And when that happened, the mayor actually, all the elites, all the politicians within Seattle sided with the progressive BLM protesters, and the mayor actually went out to these protests and got assaulted. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these ones.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And today I spent, what was it, like 2 to 3 hours watching the hearing from the Oversight Committee on Sanctuary Cities it was Kathy Hochul, the governor.
We're going to show that later,
Yeah.
so why don't we wait?
Okay, I was going to make a point with this one, but
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So Kathy Hochul, Tim Walz, Kamala
Yeah.
Harris's ex-vice
don't know.
presidential dude, and the governor from Illinois, Pritzker. And it was very obvious through the line of questioning from both Democrats and Republicans that the versions and the stories that they're trying to tell, not just themselves, but the people, are complete. It's like they're living in two different planets. So just seeing what the Democrats were trying to say and how they were trying to paint all of this, and then how the Republicans would come in and show actual faces of criminals and talk about the actual convictions and what actually happened with the raids and etc., would just showed that they either don't know anything or they're really trying to.
We'll see it in a little bit, and people will understand. It's kind of confusing when you're just talking about it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go into the next story here.
Well, Walker says, "What's up, folks?" And then says, "I wonder, doesn't the NSA do anything to see who the ringleaders of these protests are?" And we're going to look into a story about
We're
that.
going into that in a little bit. Yeah, they're starting to do investigations, which is a good thing.
And I'll start talking about it in Spanish tomorrow as well. And Walker also says, "I have a question. Can police departments in the U.S. conduct investigations into these issues, or are they just reactive forces responding to problems?"
Not in sanctuary cities. So there's sanctuary states and cities. There's only a few of them. I think there's like 6 in total. But because these states are so progressive, the political elites were able to pass laws that they don't have to cooperate with the federal government, and that they're not allowed to stop and frisk or ID or inquire about anybody's legal status to be in the country.
But with the riots?
With the riots, they can arrest protesters, but the thing is, it's very politically charged. So very often, the mayor, the governor, like Gavin Newsom, and the mayor of Los Angeles didn't want them to intervene, but at a certain point, they had to let them, especially because there's a lot of political pressure because of the LA fires where they recently ran out of water. If that similar situation happens and Los Angeles does ignite again, and for some reason they don't have water, it's not going to be a good situation. Yes. Okay, let's go away from the protests for a little bit, just because we've covered them so heavily. We'll get back to them more near the end of the broadcast.
But yes, this is a sad news. So this is from AP. Air India crash. Plane headed to London crashes with 241 people passing
And
away.
I believe this was an older report. It's actually 240. Because
241.
we're gonna talk about the one survivor.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So this was a major crash. Everybody on the airline actually passed away, except for one survivor who jumped out the side of it, the airplane as it was crashing and somehow managed to walk away from this thing, which is just an absolute miracle. I won't be surprised if something else comes out after this because I don't understand how he jumped out the side of a plane and survived.
There's also been a lot of Boeing issues lately.
Yeah, people are saying this is going to hurt Boeing. This isn't going to hurt Boeing at all. And why not? Because Trump is negotiating major deals for Boeing with foreign governments right now. He did it with the UK. He did it with Canada. I think he did something with Boeing in China as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know in the UK deal, it was huge. They're putting Rolls-Royce engines into Boeing planes. So Boeing's got enough contracts to kind of float them for the next decade, thanks to Donald Trump.
I see several different numbers even within this report saying 240, 241.
And let's just be very clear on what Boeing is. Boeing is part of the military-industrial complex for the United States as well. It's not just private aircraft. So.
And warning, there's graphic images. Just thought I should say. So, sole survivor Ramesh Vishwaskumar of doomed Air India crash walks away from the wreckage.
Okay.
Why does he seem angry? Because
he's from the UK, I believe.
Oh.
He's not from India. The reports that I had heard was that he was actually a British citizen. So I'll reconfirm that. Don't take that at 100%, but I was reading earlier and it looked like he was a British citizen. Obviously, he was probably originally from India, but that's why he was headed there. That was a pretty amazing story, but it's almost unbelievable. So it's more believable if the plane crashed and somehow he survived. The fact that he jumped out of a
crashing plane,
just those reports don't seem realistic to
It's
me.
reminding me of another recent story where I think another person also just walked away like seconds before something happened during another plane crash.
Yeah, if it was over the water and he jumped out, maybe. I don't know, but it looked like that thing was over land and crashed into a building. Okay, let's go into the next story here, and this is Trump executive order.
So from the AP, Trump is expected to sign a measure blocking California's nation-leading vehicle emissions rules.
Yeah, and California is really cutting edge for emissions rules. They want to get rid of not only gasoline cars, but I believe it's 2035 they want to start selling them, but they want to get rid of gas stations as well. So normal people won't even be able to travel that state. That being said, they don't have the electrical power grid to supply these electrical cars if everybody did own an electric car. Mm-hmm. So the fact their failure to even build a proper energy grid, these needed to be taken away a long time ago because California is having rolling blackouts constantly throughout the year. So good on Trump for doing this, and it's just not realistic. This was hopes and dreams. We're dealing with reality here. Obviously, Gavin Newsom isn't.
Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah.
So President Donald Trump is expected to sign a measure Thursday that blocks California. So this is from yesterday, but California's first in the nation rule banning the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035, a White House official told the AP. The resolution Trump plans to sign, which Congress approved last month, aims to quash the country's most aggressive attempt to phase out gas-powered cars. He also plans to approve measures to overturn state policies curbing tailpipe emissions in certain vehicles and smog-forming nitrogen oxide pollution from trucks.
Yeah, and overall, this is just good policy. These are realistic policies where they need to compete with China and Russia and the global South. They're not going to be able to do this if they handicap themselves with these these carbon emission laws, taxes, things like this. So it's just a matter of being able to compete with the BRICS countries at this point. And the U.S. needs to be the leader in kind of mounting an economic, how would you say it? Pushback against the BRICS. Okay, let's continue to go here. What do we have next? Massive. Oh, this is what we were kind of talking about earlier.
Yes.
From Walker's question.
Yes. And I was trying to find, I had another source as well, but I can't find it. So, breaking massive FBI investigation into LA riots, CCP connections exposed, nobody's surprised. FBI Director Kash Patel launches a major probe into who's really funding the LA immigration riots, and you won't believe what he found.
And this is a thread, so we can continue to go down.
Yeah.
And I had been aware of this guy from day one, actually. This guy was exposed. He lives in China now, and he's a billionaire that sold his, or $800 million he sold his tech company for. And he's organizing not only this protest, but other protests like this across the United States.
So, bombshell, direct links to pro-Beijing tech billionaire Neville Roy Singham uncovered. He's funding two major communist organizations behind the riots. And who is he? Founder of ThoughtWorks, a software company, pro-Palestinian protest funder, joined a radical Marxist group at age 17, lives in Shanghai with close ties to the Chinese media.
And he used to be from the U.S., and that's where his tech company was from. After he sold it, he moved to Beijing, and now he's funneling money much like a mini George Soros.
Praises Hugo Chavez and China, and co-founded the People's Forum in 2017, headquartered in Midtown Manhattan.
Yep, let's continue to go on this thread.
Key players, so the PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation, and the People's Forum, both pushing CCP propaganda and organizing riots. Coincidence? I think not. And yesterday I was asking you, what is PSL? Because I wasn't sure. It just stood for Pumpkin Spice Latte to me. And
that's why I think these riots really emerged in Los Angeles first. China and the CCP have had their tentacles into Gavin Newsom. If you remember, he removed all the homeless people when Xi Jinping came over for a visit. And as soon as he left, everybody was put back in place. The LA actually looked quite nice for a couple of days when Xi Jinping came, but he can't do that for the regular citizens. That being said, I believe all the money that's going to go to a lot of these protests nationwide is going to flow through California from the CCP and other organizations.
And let's just say this is all speculation.
Yeah, but they are doing the investigation now, and a lot of things have been emerging in my own personal investigation over the last few days.
Yes. Follow the money. These groups are calling riots a war on immigrant communities while taking money from pro-China sources. But it doesn't stop there. ICE was going after hardened criminals, members of the cartels, and that's when Democrats went crazy. Cartel payroll, again, speculation. George Soros is involved too.
And we also know the CCP is involved with criminal organizations within Mexico. So if they fund it here to have them go across the border, do things, and then come back here, like that, Mexico needs to either be quiet about it, or they need to stop speaking up the way they are, because this could escalate, like I said yesterday, into something Mexico really doesn't want. A lot of these dots can be connected back to Mexico, or financing coming through Mexico.
Then, what do they have in common? They hate America and they want to weaken, destroy, or overthrow it. In 2016, Democrats were outraged that Russia had spent $200,000 on social media bots during the election. So why are they okay with millions in communist money to fund the riots, including pallets of bricks, truckloads of shields, etc.? Kash Patel will find out.
And let's just, it's not just the CCP or China funding this. This is a lot of NGOs, private organizations, corporations that all have this progressive liberal ideology. So,
and it's easy ways to.
And we've been kind of showing that over the last few days. This is the first time we're really connecting the thread specifically with the CCP, because a lot of things have been coming out with that thread specifically.
And I was looking for a better article that actually highlighted everything, but if I find it, we'll show it on RU and BLE.
Okay.
The People's Forum openly bragging about taking money from Singham, calling him their friend, but wait until you hear what he's been up to. He was spotted at a propaganda forum.
Wait, they can go to the thread if they want to. Okay. We can go to the next story.
I'll link it down below. I didn't know how much you wanted me to read.
Yeah, sorry for a little bit low energy today.
Are we?
Yeah, oh yeah.
No.
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Alex Jones, the EU attorney, the man with the mustache, will soon fall. Welcome to Poland. Reject unelected globalist cartels.
I'm just making sure the mic volumes, because you're speaking really softly today compared to normal, and I can't monitor
I'm
it.
not.
Okay.
You told me to shut up.
Okay, let's continue to go.
Should I play it?
What is this about?
Poland.
Sorry, I was trying to check the audio.
Poland.
Okay, let's go with this. And we seen this guy yesterday with the LGBTQ flags and posters and everything like that, and now he's going after the EU. This is good to see. More countries need to start taking a stance against the EU, because it seems like they're trying to take the sovereignty away from these individual countries and put it in the hands of unelected officials.
I thought he was just going to throw it.
Maybe he's going to a globalist protest and he needed a flag.
Nie
No.
ma czegoś takiego, nie ma takiego państwa. Chwała Bogu, nie ma jeszcze takiego państwa. Więc nie będziemy w Polsce, w polskim ministerstwie eksponować znaków wrogich nam organizacji, które, chwała Bogu, nie mają statusu państwowego i w związku z tym tego typu emblematy nie są dotyczące żadnego
Something emblematic.
prawa na terenie Rzeczpospolitej Polskiej. Tu jest
Yeah, and it's good to see Poland really sticking up for themselves, and they are one of those countries that do have a lot of
And then they burned it.
that do have a lot of national pride. So even though they are very interlinked with NATO and things like that, they have been standing up against the EU and other globalist ideologies. So good on Poland.
And then Walker says, dude, all this for having opened the door to communist philosophers like Adorno. I have to do something. I have to do a whole thing about him. Who were fleeing the Austrian painter during World War II. How tragic the fate of the West, and it's a self-made tragedy.
Okay. Oh,
And then
was that it?
he says that the Polish guy is super base.
That's 2 days in a row now for that guy. I
Yes.
think it was the same guy. If not, it is the same country. Okay, let's go into now. Well, we had so many articles yesterday. I think this one slipped past us, and I had meant to put it in there actually, but this was about the escalating tensions within Iran between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. seems to be trying to get dragged into this thing. And before we get into the story, you do know my stances on this because I say them quite frequently. I wish the U.S. would stay out of these foreign wars and stop funding these foreign governments like Israel to the tune of $4 billion a year, stop funding Ukraine, and just focus on their own national defense in their own country.
Yes, just stop all the wars, essentially, is
Yeah.
my position. No, this is actually from today, actually, just a few hours ago.
Yeah, I grabbed this just as you were on air.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you said that we looked past it.
Oh no, yesterday I meant to talk about what was going on with Iran, the U.S., and Israel, and of course I forgot to talk about it, and then this happened today.
So this is from Benny Johnson. Breaking intel reports Israel's strike tonight may have wiped out Iran's entire general staff, including the top military commander.
Yeah, and so far it's been reported at least 2 high-ranking officials are
Gone.
and that was coming from Iranian sources within the country. So are there more? We'll have to see.
First, Caitlin, something I just heard from a senior Israeli official who says that according to Israeli assessments, there are very high chances that the entire Iranian general staff, including the head of the Iranian general staff of the Iranian
Pause it real quick.
military,
I don't want to get dinged. How long is this? 50. Okay, we can continue to go.
and several senior Iranian nuclear scientists were all eliminated in the Israeli strikes tonight. I hear that again from a senior Israeli official who says that several senior top Iranian military commanders, including the head of the general staff of the Iranian military and senior nuclear scientists,
Whoa.
have all been
Can I pause it?
targeted
And we're going to continue to play this in just a moment, but this is bad news. Iran does not want to escalate a conflict. They're currently in negotiations with the U.S. to or put sanctions on their nuclear program. Trump came out with a statement the other day, said Israel better not strike. Well, they're in negotiations. Israel is a lot like the EU is right now. They want to escalate tensions. The EU wants to escalate the war with Russia to broaden it, and they expect the U.S. to come in. And Israel, because of NATO contracts, the United States is bound by NATO to kind of protect NATO if that war does escalate. And with Israel, Netanyahu expects Trump to come in if he does bomb Iran. Trump's on the path to peace here. Netanyahu's entire career is hinging on war. He may actually be arrested if these wars end. So.
Oh, that was it.
Oh, that was it. Okay, perfect.
Oh no, I meant you. That was it for you.
Oh yeah.
In those strikes, and according to IDF assessments, there's a high chance that they've been eliminated.
And the last time a high-ranking Iranian official was eliminated by the Israelis, there was a massive strike back. But when they did strike back, they did it very controlled, and they told the U.S. before they made the strike that they were going to hit military targets and when it was going to take place. So Iran is really playing within the borders or within international law when it comes to war and things like this. Israel is really going above and beyond and trying to escalate this thing. Trump has been a huge supporter of Israel, so if Israel does go in or this thing does escalate, I do expect the U.S. may join them, and I really hope not. And a lot of people that do support Donald Trump will no longer support him if he does go into Iran. That we expect no wars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did have this one as well from CNN. Trump didn't want Israel to strike. They did it anyway, as you were just saying. In the hours before Israeli warplanes carried out an attack on Iran early Friday, raising fresh fears of an all-out war in the region, President Donald Trump made it clear that it was an outcome he hoped to avoid. I don't want them going in because, I mean, that would blow it, he said, referring to his diplomatic efforts to curb Tehran's nuclear ambitions. The fact Israel went in anyway without any U.S. involvement and against the president's publicly stated wishes now thrusts Trump into one of the biggest tests of his young presidency.
Yeah, and I really hope this thing cools down. I can also see the other side of the coin here. The problem was this strike from Israel was far too big and it took out some major targets within Iran. I could have seen if Trump was in negotiations with the Iranians and the negotiations aren't going well, Trump can't directly threaten the Iranians. Otherwise, the negotiations would kind of break down. But if the Israelis escalate things while Trump's in negotiation, now he has a little bit of leverage saying, I can stop them from doing this. We need to come to a deal. But this strike was almost too big. I think Trump may have said, yeah, make a strike, but make it small to give me some negotiating leverage. I'm fully expecting Iran to hit back and hit back hard, and justifiably so. So, and that's from somebody that, like, I think the U.S. should stay out of it, but when one side's going to hit you, you have to expect you're going to get hit back, period.
Yeah.
And I'm not a supporter of Iran
worries.
in any way, shape, or form. So,
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, let's go into the next article and actually put this here because massive trade deal with China. This was actually a missed story from me yesterday, and I just kind of put it in here to remind myself. I reported yesterday that the U.S.-China had come to a major trade agreement with the tariffs and other things. It looks like it's only a temporary agreement. It kind of extends what they already had for about 6 months. At least that's what I'm kind of reading. They were kind of reporting it as this huge trade deal, kind of to, I think, stabilize the stock markets and things like this. But it looks like this is a temporary deal. Temporary is better than nothing, especially when it's with China. This Chinese deal is going to take a long time. Like I said yesterday, I was expecting it to take 2 to 3 years before they come to a permanent
agreement.
But
And it was steel and visas for Chinese students. Like that was a trade.
Yeah, and the Chinese gave some things too, and the Americans gave a little bit, but
Rare earth minerals. That was
rare earth minerals. This is just so they were having some holdups in the main negotiations, so they figured they would make it a temporary arrangement, so these wouldn't be sticking points in the bigger negotiation. So now they can focus on other elements of the deal, which is good. Trump's Jewish friend from New York, who's really not a negotiator, he was in real estate a lot of his life, but Trump trusts him, and he's sending him around the world to make a lot of these trade deals, and he seems to be doing pretty good. So. Yeah, people.
well, I mean, if you're in real estate, you'd have to know how to close.
Well, you also need somebody you can trust because there's so many neocons within the administration that he can't send the wrong person over there to negotiate. Okay, let's go into the next or the last story for YouTube before we head over to the Green Monster. That's RUMBLE.
This is eye-opening video exposes a staggering quantity of energy and resources required to build just a single wind turbine. Imagine believing these eyesores are saving the planet. If you're Mexican, he kind of sounds like our old president.
And this is quite a long clip, so we'll pause it along the way, but I do want to play the whole thing because, man, I knew these things were hard to recycle. They're primarily just tearing them down and burying them in the ground, and they don't last more than 10 years, so they're very inefficient on the back end. I didn't know how inefficient they were to construct on the front end until I watched this video.
You know how wind turbines are built? Let's start the base of the tower. First, a circular base is formed using concrete. Once the cement dries, a series of intersecting pipes are installed with screws. Around these pipes, reinforcement bars are laid to form a larger circular plate. After sealing it with a lid, concrete is poured inside. Holes several meters deep are drilled into the pipes, and excess pipe material is ground off. A high-strength metal disc is then fitted over the holes. Next, a high-pressure pump injects composite resin material.
All this steel, all these holes they're drilling, all this concrete, and they're going to show real photos in a moment of them digging these holes, is massive amounts of energy that is required for this. And on the back end to recycle it, they're not able to recycle it. They just bury it. And it's just a massive amount of energy on the front end. On the back end, they don't last for more than 10 years before they have to be replaced. There's constant maintenance and upkeep fees. They actually have to lubricate and oil this thing on a constant daily basis. So.
And it's not green energy that they're using to stick these things on the ground or to even produce them. It's actual.
And if there's no wind, it doesn't give constant energy into the grid. Therefore, that's why the grid can then fail. We're seeing this kind of happen in Europe now. Let's continue.
Into these holes, and after the injection, a steel rod is inserted into each hole. The intersecting angles of these rods underground firmly lock them into the rock layer. The gaps in the metal disc are filled with sealant and locked with screws. The bolts on the disc are reserved for mounting the tower. For wind turbines over 5 megawatts, the base needs to be deeper and larger. The ground is leveled using a grouting machine, and a 3-meter-high base is installed at the center, which acts as a vertical base, connecting and positioning the wind turbine. Reinforcement bars form a chassis shape, creating a conical base for the tower. This requires a larger grouting machine and consumes thousands of tons of concrete, with continuous 24-hour work until the concrete is sufficiently solidified in a month.
And all those workers got to come to and from the site. This is just, and people don't realize the actual cost of these wind turbines. And if we're to think solar is any better, it's not. It has a ton of waste and
metals and stuff that are needed for production of them.
Yeah, solar is just as bad as this, but this is really bad as well. And the amount of birds and things that die, I was surprised at how many birds die per turbine.
The base is then buried with soil. Next to the turbine base, a trench is dug for laying cables that transmit electricity. The other end of the cable is connected to the wind turbine substation. The substation manages, transforms, transmits, and distributes the electricity generated by multiple wind turbines, ultimately connecting to the national grid. Once everything is ready, the wind turbine assembly can begin. The blades, typically over 40 meters long, are the most challenging to transport, requiring...
And it's those blades that they can't recycle, and it's a thing that has to be replaced after 10 years. So, yeah, they're literally just burying these things in the ground after they take them down.
specially equipped trucks and experienced drivers. The tower is transported
Usually
in
made of
sections and
fiberglass as
assembled
well, so
on
they're just
site with
bearing
2
massive
cranes.
amounts of
One uses a
fiberglass.
special hook, and the other uses steel ropes to lift and vertically flip the column. After aligning and tightening each screw, workers enter the scene.
These are
Now,
huge
the second
screws.
column is hoisted, with the workers inside completing the connection and locking. The third segment, lifted to a height of 50 meters, requires the driver to use a walkie-talkie for precision
Let's pause
alignment.
it one more
Looks like
time.
they were gonna squish
And
them.
this is why nuclear has the least amount of deaths associated with it and associated with its production. Even with the nuclear disasters they've had, it is actually the safest and it's had the least amount of deaths. Workers die all the time in the assembly of these wind turbines. Also in solar, there is a lot of deaths from exposure and things like that.
Passing aways.
With this segment in place, the tower is complete. Next is the nacelle weighing over 20 tons. It's hoisted with ropes to prevent swaying. The nacelle is the heart of the wind turbine, including the gearbox, generator, and control system. After securing the nacelle, the hub is installed. This is the hub first. Flip the hub over to the vertical. Although a rotating component has a fixed installation angle and is secured once the angle is perfectly aligned. Finally, the blades are installed. These massive blades require custom lifting tools for hoisting, controlled by ropes in 4 directions to ensure stability during lifting. The tension below helps with the connection when the
Pause it
blades
real
reach
quick.
the
And like, they're obviously putting these wind turbines in high wind areas. It looks very hard to get these
Aligned.
aligned and put in there. And what happens if there is a high wind?
And there's
Okay.
people below.
This seems dangerous, but okay, let's continue.
their final height. After installation, workers manually remove the ropes, and the driver slowly removes the lifting tools from the blades. Once the last blade is installed, the wind part of the turbine is complete.
And there you go, green energy.
I hate those AI voices, even though I sometimes sound like one when I'm tired. But
Okay, that's it for YouTube. We're gonna go over to the Green Monster. That's RUMBLE. We did have 3 stories tonight that we couldn't touch on YouTube because of some language.
yes.
Okay,
So thank you for being here. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at RUMBLE in just a second.
and please like and subscribe if you haven't. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. We're almost there. So, oh sorry, 1,000.
I mean, yes, eventually we would
I was
like
thinking
to.
of our other channel. We have a Spanish channel as well. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can monetize this channel, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to make more permanent content on a regular basis, like edited videos.
Yes,
So,
which I miss. So see you over at RUMBLE.
okay, I'm going to log in here. We'll give people a second just to come over to Rumble.
Hold on. I gotta get the chat as well. And